Welcome everyone to another video, and today we are going to be talking about Exdeath, the character who at this point I'm quite interested in because honestly, just check out this animation. This is probably one of my favorite limit bursts I've seen in the entire game. It looks so freaking cool, and yeah, shoutouts to Exdeath for just having one of the coolest animations. But we're here today to talk about build. We're here to talk about whether this character is any good or worth your resources, or whether you should completely ignore him. Let's take a peek, shall we? So we're going to jump up here to my dark base team, and we're going to plot Exdeath in and take a look at what we got. So with the current build, vision cards and everything, you can see what his stats generally look like. No Hermes sandal on this one, which I quite like. If we were to look at, a last generation mage, this is what we're looking at, or maybe a last. This would be a last generation mage, about 1 year apart-ish. And then we take a look at Exdeath. Well, you're going to note his attack not super high at this point, but that's okay. He's got a lot of other really good stats that we're going to... So 12k HP, 1700 magic, more or less, 44 accuracy, which is nice, 118 speed, 42 and 27, respectively, for single. We return resistance. Sorry, I was going to say resistance. It's muddled my words there. But here, taking a look at other resistances. Now, generally really nice resistances against multiple damage types with this build, particularly against slash, shooting, and magic. Very, very common damage types out there. And then we're going to look at elemental resistances. Here we have a net positive, and it doesn't stop there. We have actually more good news. And you can see this potentially maybe a little bit of a already correction against Mont, a pre-correction, if you will. But that is what we are essentially at for resistances. Now, let's take a look at the character that we've got. Now, as you can see, we got this, which is going to make this character interesting for testing, just because, wow, I mean, they doled out a really good reliquary armor for the character. As for our new weapon, here you can see the general stats, a little bit of accuracy on it, primarily a magic-based attack DPS weapon. Also the primary effect here, magic attack up, really, really good. If we're looking at the other effects, CT down is disabled from this piece of equipment, which is pretty interesting. Might be one of the reasons why you want to just use this. Here, by the way, this is considered to be a staff. It's not a sword. Other things, increase resistance to all attributes by 5 and physical damage reduction of 8%. So an interesting amount of survivability, speed, protection, as well as resistance to all attributes, which honestly, yeah, it is pretty interesting. Trust Mastery, this might be one of the best Trust Masteries in the game. Maybe a little presumptuous, but I have to say, I'm quite liking the way that this thing looks. So, what are we looking at? Well, Trust Mastery, 230 HP, 5 defense, 8 spirit, and 5 speed. Any extra source of speed is almost universally always quite good. Excuse me for 1 second. Excuse me. I had to clear my throat, and I didn't want to do that on video, so my bad. Compared to Mont's armor, which basically didn't look really that great at all, this is an accessory. It's boots. It's considered to be already, to me, one of the stronger Trust Masteries you can get, because what you are getting on this, reducing physical damage taken by 25% until 2 attacks are received. Reduces magical damage by 25% until 2 attacks are received. Move +1 for 4 turns itself. and agility increase of 25%. It's a lot of things that we look for in a Trust Mastery skill. Higher movement is great for some characters. Speed up is great for every character, and actual survivability. This on like the new mod seems really nice, because you'd have a move plus 5, or a move of 5, a speed boost of 25% on a really fast character. And I honestly think this is going to be one of those Trust Masteries that we might see for the next long amount of time, because it, with haste being potentially disabled quite a bit by the new version of Mont, this just general speed up might actually be the new ticket. We'll see. But I think that this Trust Mastery is really nice. Top tier. Not the highest of tiers, but pretty damn close, in my opinion. Alright. Master ability reaction block of 20, magical damage taken of 15% reduction, dream ability HP of 15%, single target resistance of 10, and magical damage taken larger the attack size of 15%. All in all, pretty nice. Looking at our support skills for this character, first one, magic attack up of 24%, single target resistance penetration of 40, which most of his attacks are that, so we want this. And all elemental resistance increased by 12%. So if you're wondering where that other elemental resistance bonus is coming from, this is the source. And it's pretty nice. Generally, this ends up usually being a really good thing given a long period of time with a wide range of elemental characters and teams. Our other ability, this one, speed up and debuff effect weakening of 20. I have to say, it's a nice combination of stuff here. We're looking at other things. Rune Knight gives 20 or 25 increase to dark elemental attack for basically decreasing light resistance by 5%. Yeah, decent trade-off. Debuff resistance and magic resistance from Green Mage, as well as buff and debuff duration, which I don't think is going to be that amazing. And Rune Knight also gives spirit penetration of 40 and accuracy. You do have some ways of increasing DPS for this character if you want to focus on DPS, but speed is almost always universally good, and this one's a pretty tough ability because single target resistance penetration of 40 undispellable seems pretty good on average. As for this, there's only one counter character. This one stands to counter all damage at 30%. 121 mod on it. You can see the range is quite nice and dispels all buffs for the targets, haste, physical damage increase, and magical damage. Sounds familiar? It's essentially the Green Mage one, except it does damage, has a much better range on it, and that's enough. This is the only counter that I would consider for this one. He does have the chance to counter magical damage and increasing AP, but as a mage, he shouldn't have a initial AP problem, so I don't think it's particularly that interesting. Limit Burst, which has that absolutely amazing. Select 2 targets, 58 at 58 AP, you will reduce magical damage taken buff for those targets, dispel auto revive, and deal a 2 for mod. All of that is really nice here. Again, single target attacks is what we are looking at for. Now, talking about his sub job abilities, which we'll look at a trade-off. First one got essentially like a Quake base spill, 200% mod, ignores the float status, kind of a little bit bland, but it is there, and it is a different element, which is kind of interesting, since you wouldn't necessarily expect it, but or wait, not just a different element, but a different style of attack. Over here, select up to 2 targets, dispel all buffs for the target, haste, physical damage increase, magical damage increase, 25% chance for slow, and increase his own physical distance-based resistance for physical and magical as well. nice ability. Doesn't deal damage, but having a dispel effect on 2 selectable characters with a wide range and also get slow on them too is a pretty good combination if you are going to have that. Honestly, I quite like this ability. I guess this ability is interesting for another DPS attack if he's surrounded, but yeah, this is the one that I would be strongly weighing the odds. Rune Knight can increase his magic and absorb some HP ability. He also has a light killer ability. He can consume his own HP for a 50% magic boost for 3 turns, which is nice. Decrease dark resistance and consume some of his HP for dispelling shell and a 225 mod. Honestly, Rune Knight does seem really good. Green Mage, not super crazy about dispel or some of the debuffs, but just essentially all of the casting time with no way of, and decreasing casting time in his kit any other way. Not particularly that happy about it. But Rune Knight versus this, kind of a toss-up. If you think that there's a chance that you can actually slow your opponent most of the time, this is actually kind of nice. They're getting a pretty big dispel. But Rune Knight is a lot more potential for his DPS capabilities, which is essentially what this character is supposed to be, a DPSer. Alright, getting into his kit here. First off, 121 mod, very short range, but has a 50% chance to poison. Nice. Status effects are one of the things that this character will do. This ability, auto revive for himself. When he is auto revived, automatically casts another skill on himself, which is a 300 CT restore. So if he gets re-raised, he will just give himself essentially a pretty close to a free turn. Also grants the effect of dispelling shell for 4 turns on an attack. So most of his attacks basically gain shell dispel, which is good for him on any mage. And this ability also grants a elemental resistance increase, 15% 4 turns. Himself, not exactly a team player, but if he does quite well, then I guess the team does. What you gonna do? Next one, break magical barriers for targets and 200% mod on it. Nice little bit of DPSing here, and more importantly for a DPSer, can get rid of barrier if he needs. Next ability, reduces damage taken by 50% for 4 times itself, both physical and magical. Really nice for survivability against a wide variety of teams. Single target resistance of 30 for allies, which is good. He is starting, has some stuff that can regen 10% for 4 turns allies, and grants the effect for allies of re-raise, remove, sealing for 3 turns. So he can actually protect re-raise, which is quite nice, and it works on allies as well. Plenty of dark characters that use re-raise, so this will find its place and its use, and definitely. Next ability, wide range on this, does get 2 upgrades. First, can select 2 targets, magic attack resistance penetration increase for himself of 30, 200% mod, 100% hit chance, and increases modifier by 40% if the targets have absorb HP effects. So it can deal extra damage if they are auto or doing some form of healing, and automatically casts another skill on the character of increasing attack, magic, and spirit in a diamond pattern AoE around Exdeath. That gives a attack, magic, and spirit increase 40%, 40%, and 20 for only 2 turns. But if he's casting this ability just as a automatic effect, then really, really cool. And 25% chance of doom on the target rounds this out as being a nasty against. And our last one, reduce magical damage taken, increase buff for targets, is, well, essentially as it said, reduce. This is a 3 hitter ability, 200% mod, and increased mod 80% if the targets have one of the following: poison, doom. That does essentially require him to use a more basic attack before he can really take advantage of this. Will he? I don't know. This is such a high range that I think that will activate first most of the time. But essentially, Exdeath's entire kit works really well for supporting the mage game plan, and not, to be rude, but not too terribly much else. I don't think that this is a character that is going to be really that great with other physical characters. I think this is a, hey, I'm going to do the magic thing, and I'm going to do the magic thing very. He is a dark attacker that excels at, multi-target, single-base damage attacks, which he's very, very good at. He has multiple single-target attacks as well, which is important. Status effects are also quite nasty, with both bio, slow, and poison, slow, and doom all being activated. And getting rid of shell, basically magic damage effects to make that his DPS will always be pretty damn high. And when he re-raises, he will come back with a vengeance. Yes. I think there's a lot of positives about Exdeath besides just the awesome animation. Whether or not he is going to make an absolute crazy splash, I think depends more on your VCs. Equipment-wise, his own weapon seems quite nice. Reliquary equipment will complete it, and his Trust Mastery seems like the best in the game, especially much better than Hero King Monster. However, the sticking point for me might be vision cards. You can already see that magic DPS up ones and magic power up ones are going to be incredibly important. So if you haven't collected a ton of them, you might have a hard time getting the highest amount. Also, while Exdeath seems quite good on his own, he might have, much less compatibility. I think you're just always putting him on, magical based teams. And if there ever is just a really hard push back against magical teams, such as, for example, Garuza, then that might also be really problematic character. And Garuza is probably the character that I think would really determine how far this character will go, at least initially. Because I have seen Garuza shut down mage team quite consistent regardless. But we'll see. I do think that Exdeath, potentially with just other mages, will be the ticket. Maybe Dario in there as well to protect him. Because a lot of his game plan is essentially damage, status effect, damage, status effect, damage, and survivability. Not the highest priority, but not terrible. Anyway, Exdeath is really cool, has an absolutely amazing animation, and I look forward to testing him in the near future here. Later.